Hi, everyone. Welcome. As you are logging in, please take a moment to go to the chat and tell us where you're calling in from and what time it is. We appreciate you guys joining us this evening or morning, potentially for some of you. So again, please go to the chat and let us know where you're calling in from. All right, we got Memphis, North Carolina. Maryland, Virginia, Hong Kong, 7 a.m. Nice. Hi, Jeff. Florida. California. Brian's from California also.
There's another California. Another California.
San Diego.
You guys are representing.
Michigan. Nice. Virginia.
You had to throw in the y'all. I love it. Wow, Nigeria. Okay.
Nice. Gabriella, I think you were on this morning as well. Thanks for joining us again. Atlanta. India. Nice. Saudi Arabia. Welcome, guys. If you didn't catch it, if you please just jump in the chat real quick, let us know where you're calling in from and what time it is. We just appreciate you guys being here. I'm going to go ahead and pass this along to Dave Bouvet.
Sure. So good morning or good afternoon or good evening, folks, whatever time it is, wherever you happen to be. Like she said, my name is Dave Bouvet. I'm one of the facilitators here today. I'm a prior helicopter pilot and a retired Navy captain, and I met Nancy Conrad about 7 years ago and have been helping out with the Conrad Challenge in various capacities since then. I'm currently a consultant with Deloitte, and the material that you'll get today is universal and is going to be relevant to the pitch videos that you need to make as part of the competition. Now, my colleagues and I put this together because we believe in the mission of the Conrad Foundation, and we want to help raise the bar for all the teams. And making good pitch products is part of what we do every day. So we are speaking to you as volunteers and not in any official capacity representing our company. But I would like to now introduce my colleagues and let them do a quick introduction as well. So Amy, let's start with you.
All right. Hi, everyone. I'm Amy Armstrong. I'm a pursuit manager at Deloitte. And for the past 20 plus years, I've been helping companies write proposals and coaching teams that are doing presentations and interviews for orals. And writing and telling amazing stories is my passion.
Hi, everyone. I'm Christiana Briney, and I'm a creative director. I've spent the last 25 to 30 years of my career doing graphic design, and I am most recently with Deloitte doing proposals and pursuits. My history before Deloitte includes being an entrepreneur, and I have that entrepreneurial spirit that I know all of you have, so I'm excited to be a part of this project. Brian?
Hey there, thanks, Christiana. My name's Brian Milder. I'm a communications strategist. I've been doing this for more than 30 years in terms of helping companies be able to brand themselves, tell their stories effectively. I've been in sales. I've written and produced many videos, and I've done quite a bit of writing as well. I'm excited to be a part of this. Amy, back to you.
So we are going to take you through our process for creating pitch videos, which is something we do with a number of our professionals and clients every day. And we're going to give you some resources that will help you make higher quality video pitches and presentations and hopefully help get you further along in the competition. So here's our process. We start with a story, which is your idea that you've already come up with. We're going to walk you through scripting and then also through design concepts and how we bring it all together visually, and then the actual production of your videos and everything from what you're going to need to the people that are going to be in your videos. So let's start with story. How do you create relevance for your product? The number one reason that most products and companies fail is they fail to create compelling relevance to people's lives. So what that means is you have to tell a story that people connect with in order to help your product and your pitch be successful. And creating relevance is not just creating a product that's successful, but it's creating a team that people can believe in. Think about companies like Apple or Tesla or even Disney. And what do they all have in common? They have charismatic leaders that people believed in. And so their products became successful. We don't have to be the next Steve Jobs or Elon Musk to make this happen for your project. You just have to make people believe in you and what your product brings to the world by telling a story that they connect with. So a good story doesn't just happen. You have to plan it out. And so this is the 3-act structure that we use with a lot of our professionals every day in creating pitches that they make to clients. Think of a great movie or a good book that you read, or even a commercial that has created an emotional connection to a product. That's what sells, is emotional connection and creating a hook. So our structure follows 3 acts. The first act is a strong opening. You have to hook your audience. The second act is the compelling middle. This is the meat of your story, but you have to hold their attention while giving them the facts and figures. And finally, the third act is to close memorably. You have to pay off the value proposition that you stated in the beginning in your opening and make them want to listen and want to know more. So you can think of these 3 acts in a couple of ways. If you've studied story at all in like an English class, it's exposition, rising action, and then the resolution. Or a more simpler metaphor is just an airplane flight. Takeoff is your opening. Turbulence is some kind of action that you're creating. And then the touchdown is bringing the plane in for the landing, is your memorable close. So how do you create a hook? There's 3 parts really to a strong opening. And the first is you have to connect personally with your introduction. You have to introduce yourself and your team. And a lot of times you're going to want to put your most enthusiastic team member or presenter out front so that they can grab the attention of the audience. And you do that through eye contact, energy, and enthusiasm, what we call the 3 E's. And the next part is a powerful opening statement. Why should they listen to you? What is the purpose of your story? This can be, an anecdote or some type of compelling statistic or something about why your product is important. But you have to capture the audience attention in the first couple of minutes or you've lost them. And finally, you have to set up that value proposition we talked about. What is your product? Why is it needed? And how is it unique? And how are you going to bring it to market? You'll notice there's 3 pieces to this value proposition. And that's because studies have shown people remember things in 3s. The human brain can't deal with too many numbers at once. So we keep all of our concepts to 3 pieces. That's what people can remember. If you go to 5, they may forget some of it. And if it's an important piece of your story, you don't want them to forget it. So that is your compelling opening where you hook the audience. The next piece of the story structure is the compelling middle. Okay, this is going to be the meat of your story, and you have to hold their attention for the most amount of time here. And you do that by talking to them about what matters to them. You're making a pitch to investors in this case, and so you have to tie the benefits of your product to what matters to an investor and the evaluation criteria for the competition. So the first piece of your value proposition was, why is your concept needed today? And again, you pick 3 selling points about that. And below this, I have listed some of the judging criteria that you're going to want to meet when you script out this piece. Does the team successfully present their concept? What is the problem that it's going to solve? And it was right there in the criteria. Do they tell a story? People want to listen to a story rather than a bunch of facts and figures. So your second piece of the middle is, how is your concept unique? And the judging criteria that covers is, how is it going to impact society or the group of people that you're selling to? And will this product work technically? So, this is where you bring in, if you've built prototypes or drawings or anything like that, you need to show that it is technically viable. And the final part of the middle is, how are you going to bring your concept to market? A lot of great ideas are just sitting out there in someone's brain or in a notebook somewhere, but it's not a product unless you can market it. So your team needs to demonstrate that you understand the market for your product. Who is it? Who's going to buy it? Who's going to make it? Who's going to sell it? And who does it benefit? And then that team has to demonstrate how they're going to look for funding, how you're going to produce it, if you need research and development money, how is all this going to come about? And they want to make sure that you understand that and can articulate it to the audience. So finally, you want to close memorably. And you're closing the action that you started at the beginning when you opened. And there's a couple of parts to this as well. First, you want to revisit your opening statement. Bring it full circle and recap what you said and close it out. The second piece in a memorable close is to recap your selling points. That was your value proposition from the opening. So you want to go back through, these are the points we want you to remember. And then the last piece is to give a final statement that will that the audience will remember. And if you want them to remember one thing from your entire video, this is what you want them to remember. And it can be just a simple statement. And the last piece of this that we have to remind our professionals too, from time to time, is that you have to ask for the business. If you're presenting, for services, we have to ask for the business. So in your case, you're presenting to investors. You need to ask for their support, ask their money, whatever it is that you're looking for. You have to give them a compelling action to complete in order to close out your presentation. So, and as you plan out your story using this structure, once it's outlined, it's time to write a script. And some of you may have, gone past this phase already in your video development, but it's never too late to go back and revisit this. So your script is a living outline of what your story is going to be that you want to get across and how you're going to do it. Who is going to be the speaker at each stage? What is the timing? You only have 8 minutes for your video, so you don't want to spend 10 minutes on an opening because you're already out of time. You need to plan out carefully how much time you're going to spend on each piece. And then finally, what visuals do you need to gather, create, or add to your presentation to make it more compelling for the audience? This could be backgrounds for a speaker, or information over to the side like a newscast. It could be a statistic if you're going to do a voiceover at that time and have a full graphic on the screen. Just some idea of what you're going to be showing when you're making each one of these points. And then once you've got your script created, it's time to think about those visual elements more deeply. And Krishana is going to take you through the design and visual elements.
Thanks, Amy. So the design of your video is comprised of a few different parts. You'll have your concept board, your storyboard, and your shot list. And as you develop each of these three, they kind of feed into the next. So one snowballs into the other, and you'll see how that happens here in our examples. And we'll have the templates for the script and storyboarding and concept boarding. We'll have all of those templates available to you guys from this presentation. So first thing I wanted to show you is some different art directions so that you can understand what I mean when I say art direction. So think about your product or idea and how you want people to feel when they see it. These are some example concept boards that I put together. And if you notice, there aren't really any words on this page, but you still get a feeling from it, right? The images and the colors that are used, the font style, the shapes that are used in the graphics, they all emote a feeling or a look and feel that you want to get across with your product. So keep in mind who your target audience is. What kind of imagery can they identify with? What kinds of things will they connect with emotionally? Remember that nostalgia is a really powerful hook. So if you're trying to get an investor to invest in your product, you need to be really passionate about that product. And if you can tie it to something nostalgic from their childhood, or maybe it's a social justice cause that you know that they have been involved with, then that's a really good tie-in that you can make. Here's another art direction that has totally different color palettes. So you can see that these are greens, these are warm colors. The photographs are still of people, but they're very touching and warm, fuzzy images. And then the third example, you look at this and they're all very technologically focused. So what kind of company or product do you think this represents? Probably not something in the health and nutrition or the repurposed farmland categories. It's very technologically focused, and when tied with the right narration, you get the feeling that the sky is no longer the limit, right? You can take this anywhere. So you look at the circles and the dots here, and they're part of the network. The dots make up the globe, and the circles and dots are connecting things. Again, these are elements that can be a very important piece to adding the visual aspect to your script and telling your story visually. So the concept board is kind of the springboard from which all else is developed. Think of it as the critical outline that you might create before writing a research paper. If you're more of a visual thinker like I am, it might make more sense for you to develop your concept board before you start writing your script. Amy's much more verbal and is a writer, so it makes more sense for her to start with the script writing. I automatically dive into what do I see, what do I want the investors to feel, and so my brain thinks in pictures, so that's where I start. So this concept board has some different elements to it. So the buyer vision headline is going to be a description that describes the relationship between your selling points that you've outlined in your script and that Amy talked to you about in your story. So you're going to tie those selling points to a visual metaphor or to a concept, if you will. right below that, you'll see the 3 most important selling points. You want to put those front and center on your concept board because those are the 3 main things that you always want everyone to hear and understand about your product or idea. And then the possible narrative phrases and keywords. Think of this as like your prime vocabulary list of all the different phrases and things that your marketing materials need to include. So these are words that will be included in your scripting. These are words that will be included in any of your marketing collateral and one sheets. And these are also the keywords that when you're looking for imagery, example imagery to represent the look and feel for your concept board, these are the kind of keywords that you're going to search when you go out to the internet. Then down at the bottom, you'll see there's some just circles, and that's to represent your color palette. Think about what colors are appropriate for your product. What colors are going to evoke the mood and the emotional connection that you want your viewer to have when they see your product. So like I mentioned, we have some templates. This is a template for a storyboard. And so you can see that there's blanks on here for an action, a dialogue, and for graphics. So here's an example of an excerpt from a storyboard that we've created for a project. So you can get an idea of the detail that you want to put into your storyboard. So remember that your color palette, your moods, and the emotions that you want to convey when storyboarding your story, you can see that the overall color palette from this project's concept board is blues and grays and very cool colors. But notice how the red and yellow in the top right corner stands out. This is intentional. This is a point of conflict or drama in the story. Red and yellow are not in the color palette, but they've been used strategically here to visually add tension to the drama. So the other thing when you're doing your storyboard is another piece that you'll do during this process is you'll plan your locations, you'll plan your lighting and your wardrobe. All of those will support the visual direction that you've defined by your concept board. You'll plan your shots so that you can frame your subjects properly. For example, if you know that during one of your speaking points, you need to have some statistics or pie charts on screen next to the speaker, then you'll be sure to plan that shot so that you frame it with the person off to the side so that there's room next to their head to put those graphics. If you get stuck when you're doing your storyboard, refer back to your concept board. Remember that this is the springboard, that's the springboard for your and starting point for everything in your video. From the storyboard, your shot list builds itself. So from there, we go right into production, and I will turn it over to Brian.
All right, thank you, Christiana. All right, so we're going to talk about some of the practical aspects of video production, and importantly, some of the things that you're going to want to keep in mind as you make your videos. But first, I want to give you some simple words of advice that we use with our teams every day, and that I want you to remember as you go forward and start to make your videos, right? So number one is practice, right? There's no substitute for rehearsal. So we work every day with professionals who have given oral presentations many times in their careers. And every single time, even today, we practice with them, we rehearse, because no pitch is ever the same and practice makes perfect. So the other thing is that it will build your competence and your confidence. And all those things will show when it's time for you to get in front of the camera for real and deliver your video, or downstream, stand in front of a live group of evaluators and give your pitch. So the more you do these things, the better you're going to be at it. The second thing I want you to remember is to experiment. Your film is free, right? You can do as many takes as you want, and you can try different camera angles, you can try different lighting setups, you can try different locations, and you film it all. There's two benefits there. One is you're practicing, so you're getting more rehearsal time in. And second, you're finding out what really works. And, lest you think that this feels like baby steps, right? Take comfort in the idea that every single film that's made it goes through many, 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 many takes, right? There is no such thing as one take and done. Amateurs do that, professionals do not, okay? So trial and error is the name of the game. Please, please do many takes of everything. Third thing is remember your audience, right? And both Amy and Christiana brought this up. They're evaluators, but they're also people. They want to feel connected to you. They want to feel connected to your product. They want to be moved. They want to be compelled. They want to be entertained, right? The worst thing you can do is present a meaningless video that's boring, right? That. And then the fourth point, right? These videos, these presentations, you're not just pitching your product or your concept, right? You're also pitching yourself. Here's what I mean by that. If you've ever watched the show Shark Tank, you will know that sometimes people have great products and they don't present it very well. They lose their audience and they don't get support. On the other hand, sometimes there are great people and not very good products. You're trying to sell both, right? You want to have people feel that your product is compelling and that you and your team are the people to deliver that product. A lack of confidence in either one of those, you're going to have difficulty. All right, so please keep those things in mind, and here we go. Let's move forward. So as Christiana said, video is a visual means of communication. It sounds obvious, right? But it's really tougher than you think to write the story that Amy described, to think visually and have that come together, right? So visual thinking means that pictures or graphics tell the story, not words. If you're relying on words, you're not going to have a very compelling video. So let's take one more step back and then we'll go through some of the basics and you'll see what I mean. Okay, so here we have this awesome slide about the Great Pyramid, all right? So think about that for a minute. When I say Great Pyramid, you probably get a visual image in your mind, but you're confronted with this not very great slide, right? It's not exciting, it's not awe-inspiring, right? It's none of the things that you would think of when you think about the Great Pyramid of Giza. It is a slide of facts and figures, right? And when we were speaking after the morning session, we were talking about what we had presented to the early team. And Christiana said, yeah, when I got to this slide, I kind of glazed over. And I said, you know what, that's really kind of the point. Words, it's very hard for words to inspire anyone. And as a visual thinker and someone who wants to see something visual, this is not going to excite Christiana or very many other people, all right? This is just text, okay? It's not to say that facts and figures do not have a place in your video or that you should never use text or never use graphics. Please do. But the rule of the road is to remember to use them sparingly, use them tactically, and only use the ones that are really going to make a difference and hopefully stick with your audience, okay? The more you throw at them, the less they're going to retain. All right, so let's progress a little bit, right? So here we have another slide, and it's the Great Pyramid of Giza again. And now we're getting somewhere, right? How do you feel when you look at these images? They're beautiful images, right? A little more awe-inspiring. Right? Do you need all the facts and figures on the screen to feel something about the Great Pyramids? I don't think you do. But this is still not a video. It's visual, but it's not a video. This is a slideshow. All right, let's go to the next. Okay, so now we're moving, right? We've got this nice overhead drone shot of the pyramid. We're in business. This is a video. But is it as emotional as it could be? Is it compelling? How does it make you feel? Think about what's missing. Not a lot of context here, right? All right, let's go to the next one.
The oldest and biggest is the Great Pyramid of Giza. completed over 4,500 years ago. It's formed from more than 2 million sandstone blocks.
All right, so now we're complete. We have a title sequence to orient the viewer so they know what they're seeing. We have great moving pictures with beautiful camera angles, interesting camera angles, beautiful lighting. We have informative narration that handles some of the facts and figures we saw in that very first slide. And we have music that completes that emotional circle, okay? Everything is well balanced. The music wasn't distracting. The voiceover was right on. And it results in a nice piece of filmmaking, right? So take just a moment to check in with yourself. Compare this to any of the other steps along the way that we've presented so far. There's a big difference in terms of this video versus prior video or the other slides in front of that, right? So that's what we're going for. We're going for that big difference where there's drama, where there's emotion, where it causes the audience, hopefully, to feel something, right? So how do we get here? Let's touch on a few of the basic things that you can do to improve your videos and have them looking good. Okay, thing number one, let's make sure that you frame your subject matter appropriately. We know that you are going to be the stars of your show. That means you're going to be on camera. That means we want you to be framed appropriately. So if you take a look on the left, the lady on the left is too low in the frame. She's a little close to the camera, and the camera angle is looking, unfortunately, up her nose. None of that's recommended. On the right, she's well framed, and you can see that her eyes are about the top third to top quarter of the frame, more or less like I am, right? So that's appropriate, right? We don't see too much of her body. She's very well framed, and she has a nice smile on her face. All right, let's talk about some more things on this slide, right? So here's some key pointers. We want you close enough to the camera to feel like we're making contact, right? Eye contact with you. I want to be able to see your eyes. I don't need you all the way up, eyeball to eyeball, but we want to be able to see your eyes so that you're looking into the lens and it feels like you're making contact with me. That's a real thing. If I look over here, we lose connection, right? But if I'm looking into the camera, we're feeling connected, even though neither one of us are seeing each other, right? Okay. So the camera height, again, should be at eye level, nice straight angle, okay? You've got to use, if you're using anything other than a computer to take your video, please use a tripod, use a desk, use books, use boxes. Doesn't matter what, right? I've used all of those things to hold your camera or phone or whatever you're using at the right height, the right angle, and at the right distance. And most of all, keep it steady and still, okay? So here's my call for you to experiment with your setup. Try it out, right? Rehearse on film, view it, critique it, adjust it. And also don't be afraid to move the camera, right? If you are 5'4" and your partner or teammate is 6 feet tall, same camera position is not going to work for both of you. So you're going to have to move something, okay? Don't be afraid of that. It's fine. You're going to want to do it. All right, let's talk about lighting. Lighting is critical to anything involving a camera because light is how the images are made, right? So great lighting will have things look beautiful, just like the pyramids in that one scene, right? Bad lighting is going to have things look really poor. So on the left, again, we see examples of poor lighting, bad overhead lighting, bad side lighting, too bright direct lighting, and then lighting from behind that causes bad silhouettes and shadows, all right? On the right, we see some successful alternatives in terms of ample ambient light and quality fill-in light, okay? So let's go through that a little bit more deeply. Okay, so here's some tips, right? Use natural light whenever you can. Believe it or not, outside on a cloudy day is perfect lighting. Clouds act like a natural light diffuser, right? So that those shadows you would get on a bright sunny day, those pretty much go away on cloudy days. So cloudy days are great for photographers and for filmmakers, okay? If you're not going to be outside or you're not going to use an open window, you want to make sure you always light your face from the same direction as the camera is pointing. So really what that means is don't put your back to the light, right? Put your face to the light, or whatever source of light you're using, a window or a lamp, okay? And then use other sources of light for fill-in, right? So right here in my office, I have a couple windows, I have an overhead light, I have a little two little desk lights, right? I have lights all around me. I use that to fill things in because I know that if I only used my natural light source, it wouldn't be enough. So again, play around, right? Grab lamps from wherever you can, turn lights on, turn lights off, change them around, move them around, and find something that's going to be complementary, all right? Experimentation is going to be your friend. You also want to look at if there's a lot of fluorescent lighting in your space. See if you can change out those bulbs to a warmer color light that might help not be so kind of washed out. And then just film yourself, rehearse, right? Make changes from there. Okay. Let's talk about sound. So there's two sound elements, right? Your narration or the dialogue that's going to be in your pitch video and whatever you want to do for a musical score. So on-camera dialogue should be filmed in a quiet space, ideally without a lot of hard surfaces that are going to create an echo. So that means, no tile floor, hard-walled hallways, no gymnasiums or tiled spaces, right? If it's quiet and the lighting is good, you can go outside, or you can find a large carpeted room. Carpeting is great because it dampens the sound and the echo. You just want to make sure you keep your back to the wall and speak toward the middle of the room, right? So that hopefully the sound just kind of dissipates and doesn't bounce. If your school has a music room, typically those might be treated with acoustic tiles. So hopefully that will give you some good sound dampening space. And that's all for on-camera dialogue, right? Where you're going to have your camera with you. For off-camera narration or voiceover work, you want to do that also in a sound control space, but you can mix things up a little bit. So the picture here is of this guy doing it in the closet. That might as well be me. When I do voiceover work, I stick my microphone between my shirts or whatever in my closet. I go in my closet because all that fabric in there kills the sound. And so that's a great way to get high quality sound that's not going to have a lot of other background noise attached to it. I've talked to a lot of other voiceover artists. I've heard people when they're traveling, they might get into their bed, pull their comforter over their head with their script and their microphone and do their voiceover work that way. I've heard another guy take blankets and put them in his car, inside his car, and surround himself with his blankets and do it there. The rule is be inventive, right? Know what your objective is, be inventive and experiment, okay? So finally, there's music. That's the last part of your soundscape. Music's important. It can add a lot of emotional depth to your project, but only if you choose wisely, right? So you want to keep your audience in mind. You want to keep your subject matter in mind. And then what I would say, if you're kind of a first-time filmmaker, is A, pay attention to films that you think are effective, but B, err on the side of being underwhelming rather than overwhelming, right? The worst thing you can do is have sound that's either way too loud or way too musically aggressive for your project and turn off the viewer or drown out your narration, okay? So choose your score wisely. And then when you're in your editing software, make sure that you adjust the sound levels so that you can clearly be heard over the music. And typically in just about every editing software I've ever used. You have full control over reducing the music level on the music track when you want to, and then bringing it back up when you need to. So the dips in the volume of the music track should be coordinated with when you're speaking. And then you can raise that level when you feel you need to make a dramatic point or when there's no narration happening, okay? So again, it should be subtle underscore, and it should be harmonious to your overall project. All right, so that's sound. All right, so let's talk about the most important part of this project, and that's you. You are the most important element of this video because you and your teammates are going to be on screen a lot. All right. So, you know, the unfortunate truth, I guess, about what happens on video, especially when there's a speaker involved, is that your body language, your tone of voice tends to be far more important than what's actually said. Okay. So that's good and bad, right? If you are uncomfortable on camera, if you are not bringing your best, most enthusiastic, confident, competent self on camera, you're going to dig yourself into a little bit of a hole. But if you are confident, if you bring your best self to that project, then you're going to do just fine. All right. So just as a little test, right? If I drop the volume of my voice and I kind of look down and I shrink my posture a little bit. Well, I don't know. Maybe this is okay. No, we lost connection. Suddenly you probably didn't feel all that confident in me. I looked much smaller, right? None of those things were good. So again, practice, experiment, offer critiques, constructive critiques to your teammates so that they can improve as well, right? All of these things are important, and all of these things matter a lot when we're talking about a visual medium, all right? Okay. So we have shared a lot of information here with you. We have more to share. We are going to provide you with this deck as well as some links and resources for you to use as you go forward. I'd like to try to move over to Q&A so that we have a chance to talk about this with you and can discuss this more freely. So why don't we proceed there if anybody has any questions?
Great, thank you so much. And if you guys have any questions, please feel free to put them in the chat and we will cover them. As Brian mentioned, we will be sharing the deck along with the recording of this video. It will be emailed to everyone as well as put up on Canopy Labs as a resource for all of our students and educators. Ariane, as they mentioned, they will be providing the deck, so that will likely be emailed when we email the link to the recording. Any other questions? They did an amazing job of really covering everything. Someone asked, how do you get on the email list? If you are in this webinar and you are in round 2 in the Conrad Challenge, and you received information about this webinar directly from us, then you are already on our email list. If you are not, and someone forwarded this to you, you can send us an email at info@conradchallenge.org, and we will make sure that we get you added to the list to send the recording. So Peter asks, do we need to add a list of references at the end of the video for technical references? I think it's a great idea as far as required by the Conrad Foundation and your requirements in the Conrad Challenge. It is not. Typically, you will put those technical references in your business plan itself. But I did see Krishana nodding her head, so I think she maybe has some input here as well.
Thanks. Yeah, if you'll notice on the bottom left corner of this resources page, and again, you'll get this deck, there's a great link to an article on how to avoid plagiarizing online content. So just like when you're doing a research paper, when in doubt, give it an accreditation. So you don't necessarily have to, include, a 3-mile list of credits at the end of your video, but I really strongly encourage you guys to go out and take a look at that link. You want to be sure that you're using copyright-free images and video footage if you use any stock footage, or that you've paid for them if they're not free. So there's a lot of good articles out there. There's also on this resource page, there's some links to copyright-free image and video resources, as well as music resources, and even video editing software. So this resource page has a lot of good links in it. And again, when in doubt, always give accreditation.
Absolutely. We had a wonderful question. So they asked, how strongly would you recommend that we put a face to our team in the video? They are physically in different parts of the country, and getting everyone in the same frame might be difficult. Will voiceover suffice? What I do recommend as far as requirements from the Conrad Challenge is that, yes, everyone should be on camera at some point in the video. This technology that we have is amazing. So what we're on right now, Zoom, or any other platform, you can certainly record from there, or you can, again, record in separate places and then put it together using free software that you can find online. So definitely great resources. It is part of kind of the learning and the tools that the challenge would like to give to our students, just to be able to present and feel comfortable. What I would recommend is that if you have someone that is maybe not as comfortable on camera, make sure that they're talking about what they the input that they gave into the business plan, so that they feel confident, because that is the information that they are the most sure of. And if you do use a still picture of that team member, a voiceover will certainly suffice.
And the 4 or 5 of us here are all in different states. So, we chose a similar background so that we look the same, and like we're in the same room and you could pan around and see us, but we're not. So we've shot plenty of videos over the last year or two over Zoom, with people in many different locations when we couldn't get together. So it's definitely a viable option. And you can even use, like we were talking about, the newscaster angle, where you put something up in the top corner and you have someone speaking on camera.
Absolutely. Peter asked, how should we take care of divulging our inventions details to protect our IP in this presentation? So Peter, you can rest assured that these particular presentations that you are submitting in the round 2 business plan will only be shared with the judges. And that will be through our online platform, WordForce, which is where you have them, where you're going to be submitting them. All of our judges sign an oath and sign a contract that says that they will not download or share anything that they view as part of your business plan. So that is your business plan itself, any graphic representations, your video, or even any photos that you have. So you don't have to worry about that. However, we do highly recommend, and we have had webinars on this, and you'll be receiving a link to that webinar as well when you receive this one, on IP patents and protecting your innovation, because it is very important once you move on to the next stage of the challenge to make sure that you are protecting your ideas and your innovation through the patent office. So someone asked, could you elaborate a bit more on the type of music which you would recommend that they use during their pitch video? Would you recommend classical over instrumental, ambient over dramatic, etc.?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I would say that, unfortunately, my answer is going to be, it depends. So I think what I would say is it depends on the type of project that you're pitching, and it depends on the mood you want to strike, right? So, look, I would say that everyone is trying to solve a problem, right? So I would make sure that your music at some point has some drama, a little bit of drama to it, right? So that when you are describing what your problem is, there is some teeth to the music that heightens that sense of drama, if you can find something like that, right? As you are going through your solution, you want that music to lighten up a little bit and match the flow of the story that Amy described, right? So that whole takeoff and turbulence, right? So there's drama associated with those things, but then when you hit the resolution phase, you want that music to subside and feel kind of that swell of accomplishment and resolution, right? I think if you look at any movie, you will get a sense of the is doing, right? Now, the type of music we're talking about, it's going to be a little bit different, right? So if we're talking about an environmental facing project, if we're talking about a technology facing project, I can see there being very, very different types of music associated with those two things. So you really have to just listen to a lot of different stuff to try to figure that out. What I would say is that there's a lot of royalty-free, free kind of music out there that you want to look for, so that you're not causing any kind of licensing issue for yourself. But take a look at some of that stuff, take a listen to some of that stuff, and just, you're going to know when you see something and you go, oh, that kind of works, or no, that absolutely will not work, right? Again, first time doing this, I would say shoot for underwhelming rather than overwhelming, right? So
Yeah, if I could add, and this is another place where your concept board, you can kind of go back to that as your single source of truth, right? So as you're looking at your concept board, you've got your representative imagery and your color palette and the look and feel that you want your product to evoke. So kind of look at those things, look at those items, look at your list of keywords, and think about what kind of sounds you hear. Obviously, if it's an environmental project, you might hear the rainforest. If it's, if it's something that is much more, maybe it's something that's very culturally a niche idea. So if it's, say, specific to the Mexican culture, then a mariachi band might be really, really appropriate. Whereas if it's, something completely non-Mexican, then using a mariachi band would not be appropriate at all. So think about what's appropriate to your product and what's appropriate to the audience that's listening, your target audience, and what might appeal to them emotionally. Again, look back at your concept board, that list of keywords that you're going to put on your concept board. You can use those keywords to search on those free music sites. It'll have a search box where you can put in a mood or an emotion that you want the sound and the music to evoke, and it will suggest appropriate music to those keywords.
Peter also had, oh, I'm sorry, Brian.
No, I was just gonna address Peter's comment here. I wouldn't overthink it in that way. I mean, I think the project should always be the priority, right? And the mood you want to set for the project. I wouldn't worry too much about the evaluators, their generation, their culture too much, right? I mean, I think that you can be very effective. Look, all of us right now are of different generations in some way, right? But I would imagine that we all watch TV shows, we all watch Netflix, we all watch movies, we all watch all that stuff, right? We all consume all that. And some of us, I'll speak for myself, I've been a consumer of that stuff for a long time, okay? And the music has certainly changed. So if I watch a movie that was made in the 80s or the 70s or whatever, that's going to be different music and have a different score than movies of today. But I can appreciate all of it, right? And it all feels appropriate for the film and the subject matter that I'm viewing. I rarely watch a movie and go, oh man, they made some horrible, scoring choices there. So again, I would focus on the project and know that the evaluators will be sophisticated enough and get into it enough to get lost in your project if you do it well, where the music will only enhance their experience and won't detract from it, right? I don't think you have to worry about generation and culture all that much.
Absolutely. I mean, in any way that you're presenting to a group of investors or to a VC, you could have a makeup of all different ages and genders, cultures. Same thing applies for Conrad. We have lots of different judges. So to Brian's point, you definitely need to focus on what's best for your innovation and what's going to take it to the next level in your video. These were all great questions. Anyone have any other questions? Well, that being said, we're close to time now. So I just wanted to, again, just a great big thank you to David, Prashana, Brian, and Amy. Thank you so much for your expertise, for your time, your knowledge. Again, we will be sharing the presentation and the recording of the video. So you'll definitely have that. If for some reason you didn't get a chance to ask your question, please send it to info@conradchallenge.org. We will definitely take the time to answer it for you. And again, thank you so much to the team for your presentation. Really, really insightful, and appreciate your efforts.
Thank you. Good luck on your pitch videos.
Yeah, good luck,
Thank you.
teams.
Good luck.
Everybody have a great evening or rest of your day.
Everyone.
See y'all.
Bye.